Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Victor, and we're gonna get started here with this this webinar, this presentation about getting your infrastructure ready for Copilot and AI. So, before we dive into all the technical details and all the good stuff, right? Let me just go ahead and tell you a little bit about who I am, who Celestetek is, and then I'll also introduce Javier here, so he can tell us about himself and Nanfer. So, to start off with, Celestetek. It is a company founded by former Microsoft employees, me being one of them, uh, with the purpose of helping companies and other partners across the world leverage our expertise so that you can go ahead and make better decisions with your technical infrastructure, be able to deploy your Azure environments, your cloud environments, right? Overall, and do it in a best practice manner, right? Um, so a little bit about myself then is I spent 6 years at Microsoft working as a technical consultant, focused on partners all across the world, primarily here in the US and Canada. Um, but with that, I focus a lot on Azure infrastructure, a lot of security, a lot of identity type of side, technology type of pieces. And from there, we get the best practices. We get to see a lot of different scenarios as to what works, what doesn't work. And as a result, me and my business partner and our team, they are former Microsoft employees that we've seen a lot of stuff, right? And we have a lot of experience with that overall. So today we get to talk to you a little bit more about your infrastructure, getting ready for Copilot and AI. We know that's the big buzzword, AI. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about that. Also joining me today is Javier. He is going to talk about Nanfer. He's going to talk about how you can get your organization ready for AI and all the adoption side of things. So, Javier, if you want to introduce yourself and introduce Nanfer, that way we can get to know a little bit more about you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Victor, and welcome. And thank you very much for having me in this event. As Victor said, we are collaborating, we are partnering Celestetek for some time, and our company is specialized in training solutions and ISV. Is as an ISV of Microsoft is providing IT new technology contents and training for companies and individuals. Our aim is to increase capacities and productivity in organizations. We are more than 30 years in the market, and in my presentation afterwards, I will talk a little bit more about our company. I will be very happy if you have any question. And thank you very much, Victor. My activity in IT is, as I have said, about 30 years. My experience is in projects and training, and I am architect in Power Platform, but as well I am the CEO and founder of the company of Numfor. And we work, I have two areas of knowledge, business and technology. So for us, it's very compelling to activate the new technologies, especially generative AI and Copilot for you guys. Thank you, and Victor.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, Javier, for that. And so today, what we're going to go ahead and focus on is pretty much your business, right? And saying, hey, what are the different types of AI that's out there that that in particular Microsoft offers, and then what are the best practices in governing your real estate, your cloud real estate, your infrastructure overall, and what steps you can go ahead and take, right? And then finally, learning the type of training your team needs to administer a new AI or Copilot product because it's all part of a successful deployment. You need all of those components overall. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let's do that. And you should see that. You should be seeing my screen right now. So, just to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that we have seen with AI and the small businesses, right? Small medium businesses overall is that generally, we hear about AI, but you know, we hear about how can you be agile with AI? How can you be ready with like an on-premises or distributed environments? Usually you say, hey, if we have stuff in different data centers or different locations, that leads to, suboptimal performances. It leads to less agility, slowness, especially because, latency problems like that. Same happens with databases. AI in particular leans very, very heavy into your data and how those data sets are stored and taken care of all together, right? So, how can you go ahead and manage stuff that's, a little bit all over the place? Trust me, I've seen that. And then finally, the costs, right? People say, hey, well, how can, I take advantage of all this, but, keep my costs low, right? Because that's one of our pillars whenever we have a strong framework is cost and being effective with what we are spending our money in. Okay. So, to address some of these challenges, right? What we're going to go ahead and talk next is, let's talk about, how we can go ahead and, co-locate to the cloud, infuse AI and Copilot, and ensure that there's this responsible AI, right? So, um, first off, I just wanted to let you know that running all your stuff in a single location is usually the fastest thing, right? Usually you get higher GPUs, higher throughputs overall, right? So thinking about preparing your infrastructure, you have to think, okay, where am I going to be performing my AI operations? At the same time, you got to think about where your users sit and where your data and your current infrastructure resides, right? So you have to think about, where does that live? Second, once you are co-located to the cloud and Azure, for example, right, you are able to infuse those services like AI, such as Copilot. That way you can get additional value overall for that. For example, a recent study highlighted that for every dollar a company invests in AI, you get a 3.5 times return, right? So again, the return is making sure you have a solid foundation because otherwise the costs are just going to spiral out of control and you don't have a viable product, right? And then finally, ensuring that you have a secure and responsible AI. Okay, this is the challenge that I've seen a lot of companies face. This is the one area where we're probably going to spend a little bit more time on because it's not a lot of people say, hey, well, I'm going to deploy AI, but then afterwards I'm going to think about the security, when in reality, in order to have a very successful AI deployment, you have to have security, you have to have your compliances if you're in one of those markets that is regulated overall, right? So you have to kind of take that security first approach and responsible approach first before you kind of just unleash AI, because otherwise you're putting out fires, right? We want to prevent the fires ahead of time. So we're gonna go into each one of these items here. All right. So the first item, co-locating to the cloud, right? So AI, it's only as good as the data you give it. It's only as good as what you train it on. It's only as good as the infrastructure behind it, right? So most of the AI items that you're going to see, they're going to be in the cloud. You're going to see them, whether it's Microsoft or Amazon, Facebook, etc. Right? OpenAI uses Azure in the background. If you look at that type of stuff too, right? So by having your AI models in the ground on the cloud, right? They're naturally going to be there. Whenever you deploy a model through the Azure portal, it deploys the compute. It's in the cloud, right? So as a result, you have to, in order to get the most out of it, you want to move your infrastructure to the cloud, or have some sort of hybrid setup where it's much closer to it. Okay. Now, this is where um, we always see that AI is great, but you just can't jump to it, right? So you have to make sure that you have everything kind of ready and set up for it. Now, if your business is still doesn't have anything on the cloud or is barely thinking about maybe the cloud, right? Obviously, it's something that's matured quite a bit over the last 14, 15 years, right? I think it was 2008, right, when the clouds were really just getting started, um, overall. So it's definitely matured quite a bit. Obviously, that trust issue that people had in the early days, I would say, is almost gone, right? People trust Microsoft, Amazon, Google, these major companies to go ahead and store their data, store their applications, hold their infrastructure, overall for that. So by locating it on the cloud and doing those migrations over, you're able to go ahead and definitely take advantage of AI in a much faster rate and a much tactical way as well, because now you're saying, hey, my foundation is set so that AI can just be built on top of it. Otherwise, you're going to be saying, "Hey, AI is in one piece, my infrastructure is somewhere else. We got to go ahead and string it along together." And to be honest, it makes things more complicated, and that's where security is a little bit more of a challenge, right? Overall. Now, infusing AI and Copilot. So right here, I'm gonna take a quick pause and just kind of go through each of these items here, right? Because we hear the term AI, but AI can mean a number of things. Okay, so the most popular AI that we see right now, and the adoption that's growing the fastest, are the copilots. Okay, in particular, M365 Copilot, which is the one that Microsoft's been pushing quite a bit. You hear it on the news, you see the commercials and everything like that, right? Where you're saying, hey, you open up the window next to your Microsoft Word and say, hey, give me a prompt, or can you give me a formula for this Excel sheet, or in Teams, where you can ask it to give you a recap of the meeting, or put a list of action items and things like that, right? That is a great way. To go ahead and start leveraging AI, because it's already kind of out of the box. It's built for you, built for your organization overall for that. That doesn't mean that it's set it and forget it. There's actually a lot of background stuff that we recommend. I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper into that, but that is a way to go ahead and leverage AI. We here at Celestetek, we have AI, our M365 Copilot enabled. We use it, we leverage it. I use it to help me make emails and review documentation and put out outlines overall. That's the part I struggle with, is you know putting together these big beefy documents. But I definitely go ahead and leverage that for at least organizing the structure overall, and then I can go ahead and go in there and fill it in with my knowledge and the information I need to go ahead and put together. For example, right? Now, the other two items, Azure Machine Learning. So as you can see, I'm working from right to left, right? Azure Machine Learning. This is where you get mostly like the data scientists, the AI engineers to be working on. This is where they're saying, hey, we're going to go ahead and use a base model, or I'm going to go ahead and use these algorithms that are out there, right? Now everything's about like the LLMs, and I'm going to teach it, right? And I'm going to teach it so that whenever I ask it a question, it gives me the proper response, right? For example, you wanted to detect, you're going to feed it pictures, right? And you want it to tell you, is this a picture of a dog? Yes or no, right? So one of the ways you do it is you feed it, you train it by giving it like 1,000 pictures of just dogs, right? And it'll tell you, hey, yeah, this is a dog, this is a dog, this is a dog. And then in order to make it more accurate, you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to feed it stuff that it's not dog. So I'm going to feed it cats, birds, you know, hedgehogs, whatever, right? Whatever other animal you can think of. You say, this is not a dog. This is not a dog. That way, whenever it finally gets to that, you know, production stage, or that, stage where you're okay, let's go ahead and test it out, right? That confidence rating goes up from, hey, this is 95% sure, to 97.5, to 99.9, etc. And you can make sure it's really accurate. So this machine learning is really a lot of, in a way, the brain, and it kind of lives behind a lot of these co-pilots. And you see that a lot with a lot of the data scientists and AI engineers, ultimately, right? That's where I've seen those type of um, uses a bit more. And then Azure OpenAI service. So this is the one of the more popular ones, right? This is where you're saying, hey, I'm going to go ahead and leverage some of the work that other people have done with like machine learning. I'm also going to leverage some of the work that you can do with copilots, and I'm going to go ahead and have my own service. This is where you can go ahead and leverage, create out of here chatbots. You can go ahead and create um, other learning models to generate documents, things like that. And it's very extensive. It works with a number of different services, whether they're vision or voice and things like that. However, this is where all those different components kind of come in place, right? And because of that, you have these different ways of how you're going to be looking at this, right? The co-pilots are a little bit more out of the box. There is the ability to create your own co-pilot, which in reality is just kind of like the front end, the user interface, and you can integrate it with the other two services. But then the popular one, like I mentioned, is the one straight out, complete. You don't really have to train it. The M365 Copilot overall. So hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of a better idea, grasp of the different AI experiences that you're going to see within Microsoft. Um, you know, right now you'll see that Copilot label for stuff that's out of the box or kind of ready. But then those open AI services, those machine learnings, that means that hey, this is more of a platform that you're going to have to build on top of. All right, so with that said, as to what those AIs, those copilots are, right? You got to think about security, right? And this is a little bit of an overview, right? You have to go ahead and talk about, hey, some of the models back since 2016 to further on, right? Where you're saying, hey, we need to have these commitments and things like that. And these are a lot of the industry things, right? Where you're saying, hey, we want to be inclusive, we want to be fair, we want to be reliable, we want there to be transparency. We don't want to just grab anybody's information from the internet and feed it to our models, right? So these are some of the regulatory and responsible AI things that you want to look at whenever you are working with your customers, right? If you have these customers and they're giving you this personal information, are you just going to be using their information without asking them, for example, right? So these are some of those ethical questions in a sense you can think of to think, okay, how are we going to deploy AI in a responsible way? Because the way you secure it is going to change completely versus how it was before, right? So, so with that said, we kind of talked a little bit about AI being ready, knowing what those AIs are, right? And then now we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about securing um, everywhere from cloud to code, and especially that infrastructure all together, right? So there's a couple of things that you got to think about. Multi-cloud compliance, making sure that hey, you're compliant and not just on Azure or on the cloud, but also thinking about okay, my hybrid setup. Am I compliant with my on-premise data center? Am I compliant with another cloud that I'm working with? Am I compliant with the cloud that I'm deploying these AIs? And this is not necessarily a Microsoft thing. This is a cloud thing. This is just in general overall, right? Overall. So you kind of have to think about, all those items there. Second thing is infrastructure as code. We're not going to dive deep into this. It's just a way of managing infrastructure, managing the cloud in a way that makes it a little bit easier to prevent misconfigurations, prevent configuration shifting, especially as you're going from like dev environments to UETs and productions and mismanagement, right? Essentially, you want to go ahead and say, hey, the portal is great. Don't get me wrong. If you're going to learn cloud, the portal is the way to go, and it's the easiest to manage, right? However, if you're going to be having this managing this infrastructure, this is the way to go. If you don't have the resources, I don't put too much of a stress on it, but maybe it's a thing that down the road you want to go ahead and do that. All right, and then finally, security should not slow down developers. There is this tug between speed and agility in development and security, and I see this. I see this daily, right? Where people are like, hey, can you just give me the permission so I can do what I need to do? Can you just go ahead and grant me, maybe not full blown global admin, but they want a high level of access to just do what they want to do and deploy what they need to deploy overall, right? So this is where we have to go ahead and say, hey, we want to help you from an organizational standpoint, set up policies in place, set up deployment plans in place so that you're not slowed down by that. And a lot of this happens when there's no process that's very well established. And like I like to say, it's a bit of a wild west, right? I've gotten into environments where I'm like, okay, what's in here? And people will say, I don't know. This was built by someone that no longer works at the company. This was built by someone in this other department. It's all over the place, right? Naming things that simple as naming conventions, right? Or tagging. These are things that can definitely help optimize a lot of these items, right? So we're gonna go ahead and do is talk a little bit more about the security side of it, right? So Azure as a code, to cloud security platform essentially, right? They have a number of security products out there. If you wanted to go ahead and stay in a single environment, from Defender for Cloud, which is part of their cloud suites. They have Defender for Endpoint, they have Defender for Identity. They all integrate really well and they can secure different aspects of your infrastructure, whether they're storage accounts or virtual machines and things like that. Sentinel, which is that seam, that kind of one single pane of glass that looks over all of it. And then I'm going to skip over networking. I'll talk about that next. And then confidential computing, which, if you have secure workloads, the processor isn't going to see that information overall, right? These are very specific scenarios for that, to be honest. And then GitHub Advanced Security, which is more about enabling developers to like identify security threats and like in the whole DevOps process before your code hits that production environment, before it hits the cloud, right? So network security, right? This is the one thing that I guess gets overlooked at a little bit, quite a bit the most, right? Um, this is the area where I would say, as a developer, you probably get frustrated by this. But from a security or infosec guy, this is where you say, hey, we need to do this, right? So one thing I've noticed is a lot of the copilots, a lot of the AIs, right? Is we go ahead and say, hey, let's rush, let's build it out. We're going to go ahead and call these APIs and things like that. And it's usually done in a way where the default is open. It's open through the public. So you have open URLs, you have open storage accounts, open key vaults, things like that, that people are saying, hey, I'm going to make a call and I'm going to retrieve it. And it even if the items are all sitting in Azure, those items natively call the internet and then come back out. Okay. Um, One thing that I always recommend is using private endpoints where possible, right? So what that does is we create these networks, and you usually have to do it when you're building compute and things like that. You have the virtual networks that are locked in, right? You prevent access, or you have a single point of entry and exit overall. And then all your other components, your storage accounts, your data lakes, your key vaults, your databases, etc., right? You go ahead and you add what's called private endpoints onto that, right? As much as possible. Even OpenAI services have that ability to go ahead and do that. So what happens is when you're calling that web app or that API, it's done through that private endpoint versus calling the public internet, right? So it stays secure within that network. While network security isn't as emphasized as much now as it was in the past, because that was the way of security, it's still extremely important. Now, you might be thinking, well, what about the other items? What about items that are in Power Platform or copilots that are built on that Power Platform Dynamics environment, things like that? They don't necessarily live on Azure. Or, items that are sitting on premise, they don't live on Azure, right? There are actually ways to go ahead and connect your on premise and these other components, right? So, one thing is everything on premise, you can set up a connection, direct connection using VPNs. Site-to-site VPNs are usually the case. Overall for that, if you're more of an enterprise level customer or need bigger bandwidth tunnels, we have items like express routes and things like that. But that connectivity, that private tunnel, it's extremely important to keep that security, high, right? On the other side, contrasting, right? Those copilots, those items like that, right? You can actually do what's called VNet injections. It's not a pretty process. I'll admit this. It is not a pretty process. You have to run quite a bit of PowerShell scripts. You got to go through code. So you have to have a little bit of scripting skills overall to do that. But you're essentially able to say, force these copilots whenever they make these calls to these web apps to say, hey, instead of going through the public internet, we're going to go ahead and go privately, right? So as a result, you want to go ahead and have that private connection overall. Okay, so with that said, that's a big piece of this, so that you can go ahead and say, hey, that network security, it resides in the middle for a reason, because it's extremely important to the way how everything interacts overall, right? Some of the other items are there to recommend you best practices or to help you detect stuff after the fact, but the networking security is actively going ahead and doing that for you. And there's a Copilot for security now. There's a Copilot for everything that helps you kind of identify some of those items, but essentially, you still have to build it yourself, overall for that, right? So with that said, securing those workloads across that migration journey, right? You look at it from the compute, the database, and then that service layer, that networking layer, overall for that, right? So you want to have that protection amongst the multiple clouds. So you want to make sure that there's integration that's native. You want to make sure that networking is native, right? You want to minimize those risks. And so that's why they offer products like Defender for Cloud, so that, beyond checking with someone that happens to have the head knowledge, right? Someone like myself, or that's seen it and it's had to fix some of those type of things, right? This kind of helps you, gives you a little bit of that self-service overall for that, right? Now, one thing I've mentioned a lot has been, this is a lot of the Azure side of it, right? Like, and that talks a lot to that Azure OpenAI. Talks a lot about that ML type of service, right? So if we're going back to this slide here, we've kind of been focused a lot on here's the laser, on Azure OpenAI and then Azure machine learning, right? So this is, a lot of that connectivity and building your own copilots, right? Which a lot of companies want to do, but you might be saying, yeah, I'm not ready to build my own Copilot. I just want to use Copilot, things like that. I just want to use the Microsoft's out of the box Copilot that's out there. How can I make sure that is secure, right? Overall for that, right? So before you jump into that side of things, right, there's still steps you recommend that we take. We recommend that you take. I'll say it that way, because um, if you enable AI, you just enable it, right? So you're pretty much just letting it go through your entire ecosystem. Even if you only enable it for a single person in your company, that AI now has access to your entire company's information, right? So you have to be very aware of that, right? And the first thing knowing is, hey, where is my information? Right, where is all my information? And I'll be honest with you, it's not always going to be nicely organized. It's not always going to be in a storage account or a data lake or a database. It's going to be, or SharePoint or anything like that. It's going to be honestly all of the above. You're going to have stuff on OneDrive, tons of different SharePoints, tons of different team pages, different machines, databases, etc. Right? Because as your environment grows, it grows more complex, and there's different projects and different departments. They do things different. There's different systems, right? That different entities use, right? So as a result, you have to think about, where is my real estate? Where is my data, right? So you kind of have to have this data security minded approach first before you start going into that. Okay, so as a result, Microsoft Purview is your best friend. In my opinion, if you're going to deploy AI or M365 Copilot to be exact, you probably want to deploy Purview in a proper way first, right? Because this is going to go ahead and give you at the very minimum, it's going to give you an idea of where your data resides. Okay, so you're able to catalog your your real estate essentially. You're saying, hey, where does my data live? And from there, you're able to go ahead and have you know different assessments and say, hey, we need to go ahead and create sensitivity labels. We need to go ahead and create policies so that such as things like email and endpoints and cloud applications, they are secure. Because what you don't want to happen is you turn on Copilot for the company, someone's just wanting to find a little bit of information and they come across some sensitive HR documents or legal documents or items about executives overall. One thing that we found out is that Purview um, and AI, they even go all the way through even your team's messages, right? So there's records of every thing you ask teams, your conversations that you have with other individuals, right? So you have to have these policies in place. Otherwise, someone can go in there and say, "Hey, what are they talking about?" Right? Um, Purview actually has a portal called the Azure AI, not Azure AI, it's the AI, the AI Purview portal, where it gives you usage information, which is good, but it also breaks down every single use of that AI product, right? It tells you whether you're using Word, Excel, the Bing chat, which is on your Edge browser, etc. Right? And it goes through all of that. It tells you when you did it. You can even get, if you have the right permissions, you can even get what the question was and then the response as well, right? So, if that's not raising red flags for you right now, I don't know what is, but essentially you want to go ahead and say, hey, how do we prevent anyone from having access from that or having it very locked down secure in a way that, we don't do that. And I would say Purview is that first tool because you have to go ahead and set up these sensitivity data labels. You got to set up these risk managements where you say, hey, what are the different indicators to address certain risk, certain threats overall for that? Okay. And then finally, using that information protection, right, and saying, okay, these documents, these databases, they're at risk. How are we going to mitigate them? Okay, well, we need to lock it down. We need to remove permissions. We need to do X, Y, Z to go ahead and do that. And it's a project on its own. And this is before you even implement AI on top of that, right? Before you buy the license and assign it to a user overall, right? So, just to let you know, it's based off an entire approach. It's not one thing's going to solve everything for you, right? But ultimately, you want to go ahead and have these AI driven, because it uses AI to help give you like better information. But essentially, that way you can get a uh, a grasp over the management of all that data, and it give you a plan as to how to secure it overall, right? All right. So cool. So just to let you know, that's just the main way to go ahead and do that, right? So now thinking about, okay, how else can we go ahead and leverage AI that is out of the box? As I mentioned, AI is already integrated into Purview. It's integrated into a lot of those security products. If you don't have an entire team to dedicated to something like this, and trust me, not many people do, or if you have a vendor that does it for you, they probably have certain analysts that are assigned to your accounts and things like that. Essentially, you want to leverage AI on a defensive stance as well, right? So that's where Copilot for Security comes in. Where it's saying, hey, we're going to go ahead and work with Purview and these security portals and things like that to automatically bring up some of those issues that you might have missed to help make sense of all the data, the breaches, and things like that that have been available, right? So right now, I don't know if it's still in preview overall for that, but you can definitely go ahead and sign up for that. Okay. So as I mentioned, it's meant to kind of um, remove the complexity, catch the things you might have missed, and then it even gives you suggestions as to how you can fix items, right? That remediation aspect of it, and say, hey, what are some things that are exposed? Oh, you have these virtual machines that have public endpoints that have public IPs. Well, what do we recommend that we do? Oh, well, what if we lock it down? What if we remove the public IPs, make it available only through their private stuff? Things like that. Um, and even if you need code to do it, PowerShell scripts, CLI scripts, it helps you out for that. So it's really powerful. Works about the same as all the other AIs. To be very honest with you, that's the one thing Microsoft's done really well. They all seem very similar, but they all have their own purpose built, and that's what a Copilot is good. It's not going to be one AI to rule them all. It's going to be the different helpers and different aspects of everything. All right. So, purpose-built workloads, right? So we're just going to talk a little bit more about, the cloud and savings. So pretty much, we know we have to secure what we have, right? This isn't just a cloud thing. This is an entire infrastructure thing because it's the security I mentioned about earlier, like, looking at your databases and things like that, it's not limited to just what's on the cloud. This is your entire real estate, right? So just so that essentially you can go ahead and move to the cloud and there's savings and it's faster overall. This might seem a little more marketing and things like that, but just let hey, if you were to go ahead and do that, yeah, Azure is a great landing spot for that overall for that. But ultimately, you can go ahead and you decide what's best for your company. Both companies have great options overall for that. But there are certain benefits though that I'll say that is really good. Okay, one is VMware skills, right? There is Azure VMware solutions. We know that Broadcom raised the prices like crazy. This not and it's less than a year. I think it's like March, right? Overall, so if you have people that still have know that ecosystem, things like that, there's going to be more solutions. Or if you want to say, hey, we want to go ahead and take advantage of the compute on the cloud and the cost management side of things overall. So it's really, it can be cost efficient overall. And if you're a small company, you're saying, hey, I need a server, but I'm not sure if I should do it on the cloud or buy a server. It's actually pretty makes sense. Um, the hardware costs have gone through the roof. I talked to one of the hardware vendors recently, and some of those servers have gotten like a 30% markup over what it was a couple of years ago. Just and technology is usually the one thing that keeps going down, but in this case, it's been going up. So if you don't want to make that big investment, you can do something where you pay as you go and things like that. And there's tools that help you streamline that cost. And of course, this isn't just a Windows, right? We're not just a Windows shop, but you can definitely take advantage of stuff like Linux and tons of different Linux versions out there. I love Linux. I used to work strictly on Linux for a couple of years before joining Microsoft. So, just to let you know, it works really well. And we know that a lot of the AI platforms run on Linux, right? So OpenAI, ChatGPT, things like that, they run on Linux. So they use that Linux backend. So if you want something that's maybe not platform as a service or anything like that, you can still use a lot of these Linux backends overall as well. Um, yeah, so it's just a little bit more on this is there's a lot of scalability and resilience, right? Obviously, when you set up security, it's not just about, hey, what happens if I get hacked or if, accessing inappropriate information, right? It's also about making sure that you're set up for the future. It's also making sure that, hey, in case of a disaster, you are secure, right? We've been seeing a number of natural disasters all over the place. So, we saw the hurricanes in Florida, Carolinas. So you want to have a plan in place overall in case something like that happens in your area, right? So whether you're already in the cloud and you want to say, hey, well, what if we do another part of the country or a different country for that. Or if you're hesitant about the cloud, you might want to just dip your toe in the water and say, hey, well, I'm not ready to go full cloud, but what if we just have our backups there? I always tell that to people, if it's if you are looking for a dip your toe in the water, you're not still not sure about cloud, even after all these years, it's okay. But it doesn't hurt to have your backup there. It's just another location, right? Overall, right? Because not everyone has two offices or locations far enough that if one goes down, the other one doesn't. Things like that. And then finally, cloud agility everywhere. So just to let you know, with Copilot, you have a lot of options on there. How you can get the insights, you can discover additional functionality that you didn't know it was possible. It's a lot about just asking it. I ask it on a lot of, can you do this in PowerShell for me? Because I like scripting, it's okay, especially like PowerShell. I know a lot of the portal stuff, but sometimes I'm like, it's just easier if you just ask the Copilot to just write you the script, or you're asking it, hey, what is the particular command to get me, these blobs from a storage account or something like that. So I use that quite a bit. That type of command, probably the most out of anything I use for Azure overall. And then so just let you know you're able to go ahead and take advantage of that and say, hey, are we going to have migrate everything overall? Are we going to use VMware, move it as that, or you're going to extend your ecosystem overall? You are able to go ahead and leverage that overall, however you want to go ahead and use it. So let you know. So there's a lot of different resources to manage everything, right? Your co-pilots, your monitors, your Defender for Clouds from a security standpoint. If you want to scale really fast, Visual Studio, GitHub, Kubernetes. I'm not a fan of Kubernetes, but it's still there. And then finally, the different operations type of tools that are out there. So Fabric, machine learning, a lot of the IoT items, right? And obviously all these things work together, and you can use Azure Arc to manage it in a single place and overall. So um, ultimately, you have a lot of options there that give you like, hey, I want to deploy this on the cloud, or if I don't want to deploy it on the cloud, that's fine as well. We recommend it, but we're not going to force anyone. But if you want to leverage AI, you probably want to have some sort of a cloud connection, because that's really where AI is living, is on the cloud. You don't see it as often. Saying, hey, we're going to deploy this entire AI solution on premise, just because AI consumes so many resources that unless you're a big corporation, you're probably not going to have the resources to go ahead and do that, right? Plus, it means you don't have to worry about like having the GPU, secure all the infrastructure, all that stuff, right? Leave it to a vendor like Microsoft to go ahead and do that. So we talked a lot about security, the different AIs, different offerings out there. The value as to what moving to the cloud, right? But one of the questions still kind of remains based off the point of today was um, getting ready, being prepared, right? Because um, as an IT lead or business owner, you might say, okay, cool, this sounds great. Where do I get started? How do I get my team prepared? Right. Obviously, there's people like us that you can always reach out to, and we'll share our information. But what if you want to scale up your team? What if you want to go ahead and do that? So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Javier here. He's going to go ahead and talk about Now4. He's going to talk about his different services that they offer, like learning as a service. See how you can go ahead and take advantage of that, as well as to how it might make sense for your organizations overall. So I'll go ahead and pass the mic over to Javier. If you want to talk a little bit more about the different offerings, I think you'll even have a demo too and things like that.
Okay, thank you very much, Victor, for your nice explanation, and very interesting your comments regarding Purview and Fabric. So what I would like to check and to talk with you is about how we can, how is Namfor, what is Namfor. We have we are founded some time ago, and the number of awards has increased from the last time I have done this. The Apple actually, it's about 17 because we have received lately another 3 recognitions. My contact is here. If you would like to be in contact with me, please, I will be very happy to share with you my thoughts. Some of our news are in English and other are in Spanish, but I'm sure you can understand both of them. And I would like to talk a little bit more about our alliance, Celestetek as a company made from specialists to give the best service to the uh, Microsoft ecosystem, and Namfor as an specialized company that is offering knowledge transfer solutions, learning, training to organizations and mainly persons and individuals to achieve more with less. We are having just the presentation that Victor has done right now show us the need of being update permanently, the need of having tools and having the right actions with the right knowledge. All these situations, and especially the artificial intelligence and the changing world, made new challenges that we have to solve with new solutions. We are having very tough challenges, such as lack of access to update training. Now Victor is talking about technology. In 6 months, maybe he's going to change and have to talk about new technologies that are coming. Employees are continuously engaged in new offering in new activities. Uh, and old kind of training make not the business going as fast as it needs. We need have a different organization. We need to have pools of knowledge and where we can share this knowledge and we can be updated constantly. This is why we have created a product that it's called Learning as a Service. That gives one of the issues is if we are working with online methodologies, most of them are not with persons in the other part. We are working with machines, or we are working with forums, or we're working with content, with videos, but interaction and persons are usually are not in the other side. In our case, this is something we are always working with and giving access to the knowledge. And this is a very important point regarding how we solve issues, and we are able, since we are working with experts permanently, changing contents, changing our materials, updating videos, updating activities, updating certifications, updating materials for certifications. Each individual has an issue of time, a time issue, and an issue of access. So all the offerings that we are giving are based on on-demand materials and components. This is why um, we provide monitoring to organizations and monitoring and help to the learner, avoiding the lacks that traditional ILT is giving to the organizations. We need to train the whole company and to engage the persons, and with tracking and engagement, we are can update one by one and 24 hours by 7 the relationship with the trainers. Another situation is another issue. When am I going to learn? Am I going to learn in the office? Am I going to learn in my house? Where am I going to learn? We are offering always our learning as a service system is compatible with any action or place where the learner is. But another problem too is we need to achieve knowledge of any very new technology, and this is very costly. And why? We if we want to take this technology in our company, we have to make a huge investment in this training. With learning as a service, since is a yearly base investment of knowledge, and these costs are already stable in the OPEX system, as you are fully aware, in comparison with CapEx, since it's an annual investment, and you can choose and get any training from new training from technologies of Microsoft and other vendors that I'm going to tell you. In this way, what we do is to create one person of an organization gets the learning as a service license, achieves the right to get unlimited access of the whole courses of our catalog, and that are transferable, with an itinerary, an agenda, and a schedule. We schedule the activities. Usually during the year, the participant, if it's the level of last cert, which is the IT level, usually has 3 courses, and we are permanently tracking and helping individuals in their progress and giving information to the organizations that in many cases are our customers. That makes happier to the employees of the companies, providing talent retention and as well increasing capabilities. From all these contents, all the certifications, official the training certifications and content that Microsoft delivers with MCTs, Microsoft Certified Trainers, and as well we offer the training too for the persons that want to become Microsoft Certified Trainer, including this kind of trainings. We include as well all regarding technologies of Linux and methodologies of Scrum, Agile, and ETL. This solution is certified by Microsoft, and fortunately, we are actually in their markets, in the general markets. If you go to the App Source Microsoft, you will find our solution. You can get this solution directly, and if you have any contract with Microsoft, and you can buy, and you have an enterprise agreement or any agreement, and that makes you have some co-op funds that Microsoft can give you. You can use these funds to buy this solution. The solution is too in Azure Marketplace. We have it in App Source and Azure Marketplace. The challenges are speed, performance. How we are going to do? There is a mess actually in many situations with a permanent change. How we can organize with a flexibility and a update that we can get really more knowledge with agility, and without the difficulty of organizing a fixed training with fixed schedule, that we have to leave our office and we have to leave our daily work to achieve this knowledge. Apart, of course, with problems of staff that sometimes they quit, and sometimes they leave all the knowledge with them, and company it's get empty of this knowledge. In our case, first what we do, if we are working these licenses can be bought by one individual or can be contract by a company for the whole IT people, or if they get the level of productivity that is the Copilot use, it can be too for the whole organization. We do with the CEO, with the managers, we analyze the business scope. We check which are the knowledge gaps and the certifications that the company is interested in taking it, and then we make a selection of participants. And then if you belong to the INCP, which is an association of Microsoft, you have as well another memberships and advantages. Um, Afterwards, what we are identifying, we make a plan. And this plan cover different scenarios: professional rotation, compliance with Microsoft certifications in case that you want to have Microsoft professionals or taking any Microsoft certification program in the Microsoft Professional Network. You can achieve new projects. For example, Victor has talked about Purview. Okay, you can get training Purview in 24 hours, just contracting this training 24/7. If you need to do it very fast, you can invest time and do the training in 1 week, or if you don't have enough time and you want to invest just 4 or 5 hours per week, you can get it in 8 to 10 weeks. Of course, you avoid problems of financial situations that if you need to invest or you have a new project, you need to invest in training, and you have already done the investment during the year, and you can maintain customer service with new products. And what we are achieving, for example, with the Microsoft ecosystem, is having success, because Microsoft is the KPIs of Microsoft partners are related in 3 pillars: skills, performance, and success. These pillars are based on skills. If they don't have the skills, they cannot get success or performance. And they are changing all the time. People are changed from the companies. And just I wanted to give you one example of this company that yeah, they are having actually they are a long time ago trying to make the certifications, but they have all the problems of the time, struggling with the certifications, trying to invest in groups, and then they have invested and they have organized the training in ILT basis. They have stopped some projects to train their people, their staff. Suddenly some of this staff is changing, or they don't want to get this training with learning as a service. The training is organized, and the people are doing and receiving this knowledge step by step, without having to stop the organization. And they have in the identification, we have seen 3 areas, 3 designations: in modern workplace, infrastructure, and data and AI. And once we have identified the objective goals and allocate the resources, they have achieved something that they were trying to do during 5 years, and they were impossible because they always have any problem in 6 months. So this is something that can have changed dramatically the scope of this company and the increase of their business, which is at the end the final outcome of our action with companies and persons, increasing employability to the individuals that are working with learning as a service, and improving the performance and financial situation and profitability of the companies. Developing new KPIs that actually companies cannot have, excepting if they are working with this kind of solution. And this another point very important is when people are hiring, and they explain to the new possible professionals, and that they are engaged in this learning as a service program, and they can show how they have the their how they are working, and how they have in their programs. This is here, for example, a sample that we have for a company of engineers. They have 18 IT professionals that they have bought license for all the 18 IT people. This is a company that is growing an average of 40% yearly based, and they have our a learning as a service program with their license and with their contents. They have their activities. For example, in this way, they have the Microsoft Copilot content with different with materials, and we have as well practical activities. We have all the videos and materials that we are giving them apart from this action. We see here and how it is working with Copilot, our training, and it says here how it has been created, the different actions and the activities that you can work. They are converting a law that people needs to do a legal aspect of, for example, you need maybe 4 hours to read and understand one legal situation, and they see here how it is. They can make they can do a summary. They can ask questions for this law. They are asking how we can do with Copilot and improve our productivity, saving many hours per month, or in this case, we have the idea of how they save at least 10 hours per day. And they can get the different activities about the text, so they see how it is working, and in a step by step we are helping with the prompts that are in English and in Spanish. Okay, so okay, so they are asking for a summary in half page, and the one 55-page document, if they want to have a summary, and they have the summary done just in a whole minute. All these materials and all this content regarding the actions are in the program, and these activities are seen here by what who has done activities, who has done actions, who are the persons that are working with this system. This is very important because we don't have only end user or manager training. We have as well many different trainings here that you see. That we have the Microsoft Copilot for developers, for user level, for business human resources managers, Loop and Copilot. These are what we call it NAM4 Copilot Academy, that is based as well on NAM4 Copilot Labs, that we are working actually in investing and researching different activities, processes to share with you guys or with your organizations, that if you are interested in if you are trying to get this attraction of talent with this, when people comes to your company and you have this kind of tools, the people are much more attired. So what we want to show, and I wanted to share with you, is that our Copilot Labs and our Copilot Academy is actually it's open for you guys to be used as the NAM4 Copilot labs in the learning as a service program that helps you with Celestetek in improving your activities and organization. And if you have any question later on, Victor will provide you as well, apart from my email that you have here. You have my Victor is giving you in the chat our URLs. We will be very happy in assisting you at any moment, and through Celestetek and with the help and collaboration of the professionals of Celestetek. So thank you very much, and I pass the word to Victor. When you want, Victor.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Javier. Yeah, it's definitely helpful to know, where you can get help, where you can go ahead and get, that type of training that is kind of sought after, right? It's sometimes it's a little bit all over the place. I know because I've had to do it manually myself in the past. But if you have it in a central location and you have vetted by certified trainers, you know that it's coming from a solid and reputable source. And I've heard they're a worldwide company that is, vetted by Microsoft directly. They're one of the few Microsoft vetted learning partners. So you're going to go ahead and get solid information there. And some of the stuff that they're working with Copilot, trust me, you're not finding YouTube videos about it overall for that. So thank you. Thanks a lot, Javier, overall for that. I did put their information up on the in the chat as well. So if you guys want to go ahead and copy that, save it, bookmark it, add it to your contacts overall for that as well. So with that said, I mean we kind of gone through most of it overall. Pretty much like what can you do next? What are the next steps, right? We can do a strategy workshop. So if you are like, hey, I'm not sure where I want to go ahead and do, is definitely let us know here at Celestetek. We've seen customers, partners at every stage, right? So people that are like starting from zero to companies that are a little bit more mature, right? So we've seen every single stage, and we can definitely, have that conversation for you. Let us know. We can, go ahead and have a free initial consultation. That's, not a problem there. And that way you can go ahead and say, okay, well, what does a feature look like for us? What does it make sense for us to go ahead and do? Sometimes companies want to do a little bit of everything. Sometimes we have to say, hey, well, let's, I know we're very ambitious, but how about we focus on one thing and then the next step overall, right? Additionally, if you are ready to move to the cloud, you want to go ahead and do that, we can go ahead and do assessments. We can actually partner up with Microsoft, where, depending on there's some criteria we have to qualify, but you could possibly even get a free Microsoft backed assessment. So Microsoft employees themselves actually do a lot of the assessing for you, where they say, hey, let's run some tools. We look at your environment. We see how would it look on the cloud and how much it would cost, how those migration steps and things like that, and give you a full report of that. It's actually pretty good overall. And then if you're set with that, you're already in the cloud, we can always work through a proof of concept and things like that. And we can always help you out with any type of ways to get you up on the cloud or develop your AI solution and things like that, right? So thank you so much for your time. If you guys have any questions, feel free put them in the chat. Raise your hands. I think I should be able to bring you off of mute if you need to, either for myself or for Javier. Thank you so much for all of your time. I'm putting our contact information in the chat right now as well. So I already put Nanfer's information, Javier's information. I'm putting in the chat because it's easier to copy and paste than a presentation. Additionally, there's a couple links here that Javier wanted to share with you. First one is a learn that Microsoft code, right, that you can redeem. If you want to talk about that, Javier, how they can go ahead and
Yes,
redeem it.
it's very interesting to know if you have the what we provide always on all our events is the registration code of achievement. That means that you have participate in an event where NAM4 as a official training solution provider and ISV that permits you to have more recognition inside the Microsoft Learn area, and helps you to achieve new knowledge, and as well, of course, can lead you to have more successful solutions because all our activities, online activities, are as conducted as well with the Microsoft content. This is one of our sources of knowledge. So this is why we always provide these codes that help you to increase your employability, since your points are going to increase faster than if you go step by step trying to perform all the content. In this case, we have offered you an achievement of the training, that it's about, if you redeem it, it's very easy, because you have I can share with you just to let you know. You can redeem the achievement code, and then once you have redeemed it, you will get more points in your profile. If you are not in the profile, since I am MCT, if you have any, you will see that you are taking badges, trophies, and different points. Okay, and if you are not already in the Microsoft Learn um, area, please sign up and become member, because you can see there many materials and updates that will be very helpful in increasing your employability and IT knowledge, and of course to apply that in the organizations. If you are certified, of course, you can see here the transcript that it's very helpful for all the trainings. For example, in my case, that I am trainer and I have different certifications and all of that. So please use them, and please as well fulfill the MTM. That will be very helpful as well for us to know your experience and your idea. And if you need anything else, of course, with Victor and us, we'll be very happy to assist you in all these situations. Otherwise, as well in the email support that we have to any issue regarding the the access or the delivery of this code, you can use this email, and they will assist you about the new levels and new events that we will organize as well too with Victor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so get credit for it. Put in that code and for your Microsoft Learn profile, and then additionally, the last link that I put there, the one that says metrics that matter. That's a survey. It's a simple survey, just to let us know how we did, how your experience and everything like that. It helps us internally, improve these sessions, but then it also lets Microsoft know that, like, hey, these guys are doing these type of sessions overall as well. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. We'll stay on for a few more minutes. If you have any questions, feel free, raise your hand, come on, put it on the chat. We'll gladly go ahead and answer them for you. We'll give it a couple of minutes, and if people are shy, and then we'll wrap it up. You should also be receiving an email with the recording and everything like that, and then at some point, it's probably going to make it to our YouTube channel as well. Well, if there's no questions, then so we'll wrap it up here. Then again, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for attending. You have our contact information. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Stay in touch. Bye.